The following recording was produced live. This is the Southern California Nar-Anon Family Group's 2023 special event about how to volunteer and be of service as a Nar-Anon member. The presentation is entitled, Helping Naranon Help You, which was held in a virtual format. This recording is intended to be in keeping with the guidelines and traditions of Nar-Anon family groups, which strives to protect the anonymity and confidentiality of each participant. As such, only the audio portions are available and members are identified by first names only. The reproduction or unauthorized distribution of this recording or any of the content included is strictly prohibited. As a reminder, our seventh tradition states, every group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. We gratefully accept contributions in any amount. Please visit our website at NarAnon.SoCal.org and click on the Donate button on the homepage. If you're donating on behalf of a group, please also include your group ID number and meeting name. Please remember to tap the like and subscribe buttons for this video on our YouTube channel. For hyperlinks to resources mentioned during this program, please review the comments below the video on YouTube. The SoCal region would like to express gratitude to our regional chair, Roxanne, and to the volunteer service committee that produced this event and who provided tech support. Thank you. Enjoy the program.
I'm the Southern California Region Chair. My name is Roxanne. I appreciate you coming. Our GSRs asked for a service workshop to discuss being of service at the group and above, whether it be region or world service, and to hopefully help take away some of the fear of being of service. So that's what we're here to do today. I'd like to start off by asking for a volunteer to read the 12 concepts of service.
Hey, Roxanne, this is Paula. I have them ready to go.
Thank you, Paula.
Anybody want to split them? I'll do 1 through 6.
I will, Paula.
Thank you, Rose.
Trudy.
Oh, that was Trudy? I saw
Yeah.
Roseanne's hand go up.
You one, doesn't matter.
The 12 concepts of Nar-Anon service, just as freedom for the individual comes from the 12 steps, and freedom for the group springs from the 12 traditions, so freedom for the service structure flourishes from the 12 concepts. Number 1, to fulfill our fellowship's primary purpose, the Nar-Anon family groups have joined together to create a structure that develops, coordinates, and maintains services on behalf of Nar-Anon as a whole. 2, the final responsibility and authority for Nar-Anon services rests with the Nar-Anon family groups. 3, the Nar-Anon family groups delegate to the service structure the authority necessary to fulfill the responsibilities assigned to it. 4, effective leadership is highly valued in Nar-Anon. Leadership qualities should be carefully considered when selecting trusted servants. 5, for each responsibility assigned to the service structure, a single point of decision and accountability should be clearly defined. 6, group conscience is a spiritual means by which we invite a loving higher power to influence our decisions. Pass.
Is it going to be Trudy or Roseanne?
I'll go. This is Trudy.
Thank you.
Number 7, all members of a service body bear substantial responsibility for that body's decisions and should be allowed to fully participate in its decision-making processes. 8, regular two-way communications are essential to the fulfillment of all these concepts and the integrity and effectiveness of our services themselves. 9, all elements of our service structure have the responsibility to carefully consider all viewpoints in their decision-making processes. 10, any member of a service body can petition that body for the redress of a personal grievance without fear of reprisal. 11, Nar-Anon funds are used to further our primary purpose to carry the message and must be managed responsibly. 12, in keeping with the spiritual nature of Nar-Anon, our structure should always be one of service, never of governance.
Thank you for your service. Next, I'd like to go ahead and do introductions of the folks that are helping to put this workshop on today. I would like to thank Ken, who's from Chatsworth and is our Narateen chair at the SoCal region level, as well as vice chair for the World Service Narateen. Joel, who's from Brea Fullerton and is currently our vice chair for the region. Debbie from Chatsworth, who is also our website chair. Dottie from Mission Viejo is not on yet. Hopefully she will be joining us. But she is on what was our outreach committee. Andy, who is from San Juan Capistrano and will not be joining us today, is our treasurer. Susan from Mission Viejo, who is our take back to the meeting minutes person. And then Yukiko from Long Beach, who is a GSR and the NTPP person for the Narateen, SoCal region Narateen. So I appreciate everyone being of service today and stepping up to talk about your respective positions. So today's agenda, we're going to go through, talk about service, the overall structure and how it works for us, and then and some of the challenges that we may have as to why people don't step up to be of service. And then we're going to go through the different roles and a basic recap of what those roles look like. So to start off, I'm going to pass it over to Ken, who's going to talk about how does serving help your own recovery and an overview of our structure. Ken?
Thank you, Roxanne. Good morning. I'm Ken. And I realize most of the people who are here this morning are of service in some way or another. So again, it is sort of speaking into an echo chamber. But part of being of service is bringing back the message to our individual meetings and to newer members, people who can learn this information. I will say that I serve and I do a lot of volunteer work, and I do it selfishly. I do it because it's part of my recovery. It's something that I need to do. I'm thrilled that it helps others, but it is part of a recovery program, is to be of service to others. The benefit of being of service is twofold. Not only does your commitment benefit others, but it will also, as I say, be an asset in your personal recovery. The more that we help others, the better we tend to feel about ourselves. And when we feel good initially, we do begin to recover. We used a quote on our flyer that said, "For me, giving back to the Nar-Anon Fellowship is an expression of unconditional love and part of the healing process. When I give freely without expectations, I help create a healing environment for others and myself." And that comes from the SESH book. In order to truly benefit from a 12-step program like NarAnon, we have to make a commitment to actually work the program. Attending meetings and occasionally reading out the 12 steps or information from the Blue Book is helpful, but we actually have to make the effort to working the 12 steps as well as the 12 traditions and concepts. This includes attending step study, working with a sponsor, focusing on your own recovery whenever we feel the impulse to focus on being involved in somebody else's recovery, like a qualifier's recovery. And I'll tell you from my experience, but I also hear this from a lot of people in the meetings that I attend, one of the biggest challenges with addiction is there is a pathology to addiction because it's an illness, it's a disease. And one of the symptoms in that pathology is refusing help. Many of our addicts don't accept the help that is available to them. So it becomes traumatic for us, and becomes problematic for us to not being able to help people when we know, or we think we know, what the answer should be. It's much more productive to focus your need to help on fellow program members in NarAnon, because we're all seeking help and we're open to the idea of being helped. That's why we're here. We often refer to volunteering as being of service, and the NarAnon service structure is in place to support the groups, the members, and ultimately the newcomer to NarAnon. supporting the idea that being of service is extremely important, both for your individual path to recovering from the trauma of having addiction in your life, as well as for the overall well-being and progress of our important fellowship, is stated in the following, and you can read them, all of the concepts and traditions, but the ones that I pulled out were concept 1. To fulfill our fellowship's primary purpose, the NarAnon family groups have joined together to create a structure that develops, coordinates, and maintains service on behalf of NarAnon as a whole. Tradition 5, each NarAnon family group has but one purpose: to help the families of addicts. We do this by practicing the 12 steps of NarAnon, by encouraging and understanding our addicted relatives, and by welcoming and giving comfort to families of addicts. Tradition 9, our groups as such ought never to be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. And step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to others and to practice these principles in all our affairs. I do want to begin by looking at the overview of the structure. So I'm going to share my screen. Let me make sure I have that up. Where I'm going is the guide to local services, and it's page 9, share screen. I hope this can be seen. One of the things that I wanted to point out about the service structure for Naranon is it's kind of upside down. If you look, and it's intentionally upside down. If you were to look at a organizational structure of any other company or a corporation, usually the CEO is on, or the board of directors is on top, the CEO, the president, the vice president, and so forth, all the way down the ladder. In our structure, it's completely the opposite. The world service is towards the bottom of the structure. That's not to say that it doesn't matter. Of course it matters, but who matters the most are the individual groups, and within the groups is the newcomer and the individual members who are attending and seeking recovery. After the group level is the area level. If there is an area where you are, some groups are part of areas, some aren't. Areas then report to regional service committees, and regional service committees are part of the regional assembly, which are part of the world service. It is also intentionally displayed this way because the best way to begin to be of service is to do so on the group level. And there are usually things that you can do within your group, such as local outreach, being a GSR, volunteering to be the secretary, being a sponsor, and things like that. And then there is committee work. I'm going to stop sharing that now. And yes, on a group level, you can form committees. In fact, in my particular group, before we went into the COVID hibernation, we were doing a lot more outreach and bringing in new members. And so we had a subcommittee just for our group to do outreach within our community to find new members. But once you get into the regional or area service, all of the major topics such as Narateen, outreach, website, etc., are divided into committees. And anybody who is a member of NarAnon can join a committee. And within the committee structure, usually NarAnon requires at least 3 members to form a committee. And the titles, if you have a title, are usually chair, vice chair, secretary, and or treasurer. Treasurer is not needed if there's no finances that need to be monitored. The roles of the chair, vice chair, and secretary are really not as daunting as I think a lot of people think. And I'm going to those specifics because many people in regular life don't get to serve on committees or haven't been in a corporation. And so it sounds more daunting than it is. Being able to step in and be a part of it sounds like, oh my God, in order to be a secretary, I'm going to have all of these skills and I'm going to have to know how these things work. Being a secretary is helping the chair and the vice chair put together the agenda, maybe typing up the agenda and distributing it to the committee, It might involve keeping minutes during a meeting, which is basically keeping a list of the major points that were discussed, any motions that were passed, and the results of those motions, those kinds of things. I wouldn't start off, if you're new to volunteering, by volunteering to be an officer on a committee. I would start off by just being part of the committee, and you learn by watching how others function. The chair, on the other hand, is largely responsible for setting the agenda of the committee, for helping to recruit members for the committee, for running the meetings, scheduling the meetings, and the vice chair is there to help and to step in as needed. One good example is in the World Service Narateen. I'm the vice chair, and in the 5 or 6 years that I've been on that committee, we've had 3 changes in chair for various personal reasons, and the first one had served too long, and so he needed to step aside. And then other chair had to step aside because of some personal trauma that was going on. And as the vice chair, I was able to help with the continuity. I'm able to help assess some of the rules, and I'm a little bit more familiar with the GSR and things like that, with the GSL rather. So I'm able to help assist the chair. And at times, if the chair can't be at the meeting or has to be late to a meeting, because the agenda has already been set, I can go through the agenda and make sure the meeting happens on time. The rest of the members are considered members at large. These are just regular members of the committee who are there. Your role can vary on that committee. Sometimes it's just to offer an opinion, and your opinion matters. You're a member of NarAnon. You've also experienced addiction in your life, so you know how the decisions that are being made could affect you as a member and as somebody seeking recovery. You can, as a member of the committee, if you can vote on whatever issues come up in the meetings. You can be a part of subcommittees. Sometimes a committee will choose to have a subcommittee that focuses on something specific. Again, I'll use the World Service Narateen. We have several subcommittees. One is the website committee, which rewrote all of our information on the website. We have an outreach committee specifically for Narateen that was formed recently. We've had to form. We had a subcommittee that focuses on new Narateen regions. So if a committee in let's say right now the Central California region has reached out to us for help, we will our subcommittee on new Narateen communities will help them form their committee. Will help review their safety handbooks and things like that. And then you take on tasks. Every once in a while, the committee will say, we need somebody to do this. Is there somebody that can make this phone call? Is there somebody that can design a poster? Is there somebody that can make a list? Sometimes the activities that are needed are very basic and anybody can do them. Sometimes they require a little bit of extra skill. So you step up where needed. Really, being a member of a committee is just the willingness to contribute your opinions, to listen to new proposals, and to be active when you can, and to attend as many of the meetings as possible. My experience has been is that most committee chairs and the secretaries do their best to schedule meetings when it's convenient for the majority of members. I'm going to share my screen again. Make sure I have the right thing up. Just to make sure that everybody sees. Now I've lost my Zoom window. There it is. This, of course, what I'm showing is the main website for NarAnon, and I just want to point out the members menu that also gives you a lot more information about how being of service and different things that you can contribute. This is the World Service NarAnon website. The service literature includes things like the Guide to Local Services. There's also the newsletter, and then there's just all kinds of other really helpful information. Don't try to read it all at once. Sometimes getting into the weeds of it is more complicated than you need. But you can, this is a good place to begin. Another place to look for those of you who are in our region is, let's see, once again, do a new share. Yes, I can do it this way. Way. This is the Southern California website, and we do have a member service listing here as well. And under member service is regional service, which will explain more about the various positions that are available and how it works. If you go to committees, we're supposed to have a page for each of the existing regional committees: finance guidelines, literature, Narathon, Narateen, outreach, and website. And within each link, the chair is supposed to update current information about what is needed for each committee and any additional information that might be helpful to the members at large, such as meeting minutes and things like that. And by the way, most meetings in NarAnon, whether it's on a local level or whether it's on a world service level, should be open to all members. If you're not a committee member, you're really not participating, you can be there to witness the meeting and learn how it goes, and learn what activities they're up to. And so that's a helpful information and to know, because that can also help you in deciding whether you want to apply to be on that committee or not. Within those links, again, the guide to local services, and this also on our local website is the Southern California regional guidelines, which also will help you understand a little bit more about how our region works. And then finally, one other thing that is not known as much, we all talk about sponsors, and we usually should have a sponsor to help us with our recovery, but you can also ask somebody to be a service sponsor. So if you see somebody who's volunteering a lot, somebody who seems to really know their way around NarAnon, and you'd like help learning how to get started, I've been doing this for quite some time. I have a service sponsor myself. Because sometimes, particularly when you really start volunteering a lot, issues and questions come up, and it's about how a committee should run, or what my place is on the committee, or what the rules are, and being able to turn to somebody who is willing to share their experience, strength, and hope as a volunteer is really, really quite helpful. We had a situation on one of my committees very recently that there was controversy regarding the rules, and I turned to, I'm sorry that my computer is singing. I turned to both my service sponsor and also to Trudy in our region, because I know she's very, very experienced, and was able to get really insightful help from Trudy and others about how our committee should handle that particular situation. And most people within NarAnon are really eager to be helpful. It's one of the wonderful things about our program. So you yourself can volunteer, but don't be shy about asking for help where you need it. And that's my introduction to being of service in NarAnon.
Thank you so much for your service today, Ken. We really appreciate you setting the stage for our workshop today. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and start on discussing the individual positions that are of service within the region. And we'll start with the officers and delegates. So I am up first speaking about the chair and past chair positions. So the chair for the region, that role should really set the pace of the region and your role model of how to really conduct a business meeting. And this can be replicated at business meetings for the individual meetings or the individual groups, the family groups as well. So you're really setting the stage of how that and what that looks like. You should always use the 12 concepts of service to guide you in your decision-making processes. And it is recommended that the chair have leadership and organizational abilities, and to be capable of conducting efficient business meetings. The recommended experience for this position is to have had 3 years of continuous service within NarAnon. As person who has participated within our region at various levels. I would highly recommend that this person also be able to keep the meetings orderly, on time, efficient, because all these things mean that you're being respectful of other people's time. It's very difficult or challenging sometimes to get people to step up and be of service. And if we're hosting a meeting that we say, an assembly is going to be from 10 to noon, then we need to start at 10 and we need to end at noon or earlier. But to run on until 1 o'clock, and when people have other things that they're intending to do for the day, when they're already taking the time out of their day to be of service, to be the voice for their group, is not a good tone to set for the region or a meeting in general. So I would recommend that the person who fills the chair roles, whether it's region or a committee, that these are skills and points that you want to keep front and forward. Some of the duties for the region chair is that you preside over all of the regional service committee meetings and assemblies. You call for any additional regional service committee meetings or assemblies when it's deemed necessary. You stay informed of all subcommittee activities and are available for support if needed. You're a co-signer on our bank account, our PayPal account, and member of the finance committee. Ensuring that the agenda and previous minutes are ready for distribution prior to the RSC call or regional service committee call or the assembly. You review the minutes and the take back to the meeting minutes prior to their distribution, and be the contact for new groups and ensure accuracy of the website or regional meeting directory. Some of the other items that I currently do is I update our directory. I add things to the regional's Google Calendar. I update the contacts and distribution list. I update our GSR spreadsheet. I check and respond to the emails that come through our SoCal region email box. Send out communications via our SoCal region email as well as MailChimp. I was the unofficial chair for our Narathon for the last 3 years and a member of the website and outreach committees. So as you can see, I do a lot more duties than what are required of a chair, because I feel it's important as a region that we continue to provide the services that we are committed to as a region. But it's so important to try to get other folks to step up to be of service, so that those that are being of service don't get burned out because they're doing multiple jobs. So with that said, I'll talk a little bit about past chair. This is something that we're actually going to be adding. We'll be talking about it at our next assembly, but it has been discussed about adding this verbiage into our local guide to local service. Is that just listing the verbiage as the region's past chair. Once your term is up and you're no longer the acting region, you would be you would assume the title of past chair, and you'll be available for the incoming chair to draw upon your past experience as they transition into their new role. So you're there as a resource for them, but you are not an active member, voting member of the region in this role. You're really just more of a resource to make sure, again, with cohesiveness in the transition to the new folks. So you're not required to attend the meetings and such, but you're there to make sure that you can answer questions if something arises. So that is the region chair and past chair positions. Next, I'm going to pass it over to Joel to talk about the vice chair role.
Thanks, Roxanne. Hi, I'm Joel. I'm with Rhea Fullerton. I was GSR before stepping up to be vice chair. My tenure in the position has not been for very long, but what I am able to share and what I can see, vice chair really supports the chair. In fact, there's the expectation that the vice chair will assume the chair position once the chair steps down and there's a new term. There's also but while the vice chair has the position, there's also the expectation that the vice chair will support, keeping everything together. The biggest item being that it's expected the vice chair should be parliamentarian, act as parliamentarian. So in order to do that, that means being familiar with the World Service Guide to World Services, Guide to Local Services, understanding the structure that goes beyond simply the group level, as well as keeping meetings structured, Robert's Rules of Order, for example. And then I also have noted that the vice chair is listed as a co-signer for the RSC bank account. Similarly, having to step up to keep things fluid. I was a speaker for the Narathon, even though, that's a volunteer thing as well. I have continued to be the GSR for Ray of Fullerton, although really hoping that someone will step up so that way there will be more people on board. And also the recommended experience for this position is 3 years continuous service with reasonable leeway. I actually don't meet that qualification myself, but between my involvement as GSR and the interest in stepping up, that is being worked with, and hope that anyone else that listens to this keeps that in mind as well.
Thank you so much, Joel. And I would like to make one correction in
my apologies.
It's okay. Is that having now been elected into the vice chair role, you do have a vote at the regional level, which means that you cannot be an active GSR. You can't have a voice into bodies. So you can continue to pass along the information that a GSR would pass along, but you would not have a voted capacity as a GSR at assembly, because you would have a vote at the regional service committee level as vice chair.
Yes, thank you for making that clarification. I do fulfill the duties of the GSR, but that's correct. I only have the vote for as vice chair. That's correct.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure there was clarity, since this is being recorded, and we want to make sure that we're not passing along any incorrect information.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, next we have Roseanne, who's going to be speaking about the secretary role.
Oops. Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. Okay, so I started out in Nar-Anon, obviously as a member of a local group, and then I was the GSR of my group, and now I'm the secretary. And I keep the minutes for the RSC, the regional committee, and the assembly. And so basically it's just what you think. The secretary records the minutes of the meetings and then sends them out to the members. Anything, we post them on Google Docs, and so people can access that as well. What else? And there's also, we have, if there's any question regarding, accuracy of the minutes, we can always look back at listen back to the recordings, which are very helpful, because, sometimes I miss some things and say, okay, what did they say? So basically it's very, it's just taking the minutes of the meetings, recording what happens, the agenda. Basically the minutes come from the agenda, which is basically set by the chair. So we just go along with that, and we've sent out the minutes to everybody. Once it's over, keep up the email list for assembly minutes, and the GSRs, and also keep a list of group ID numbers and group emails. So that's basically it in a nutshell. I've really enjoyed it. I've always liked, whatever meeting I'm in anywhere, I just automatically start taking notes. So that was an easy role for me to fill if I feel like it kind of put me more involved in what's going on, if I can also write it and hear it. And so it's been good. I've enjoyed it. I've learned a lot. There's a lot I didn't know. And as I'm looking at some of these duties, I'm thinking, oh, I didn't know about that duty. And oh, I didn't know about that duty. And so a couple of things I wasn't, too familiar with. But yeah, that's in a nutshell. And I've enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for your service, Roseanne. Next, I'd like to pass it over to Trudy. Trudy, with Andy's absence today, would you prefer to speak about treasurer and finance together in one lump sum, or would you want to keep them separate as listed in the agenda?
I can probably do them together. That'll save time. And
okay, I figured I'd leave it up to you on how you would prefer to present it.
Okay. Thank you. Hi, I'm Trudy. Well, for the treasurer, it's fairly self-explanatory. We require 2 years of continuous service in NarAnon. And of course, the treasurer keeps track of the money. We collect money by PayPal. We do have a PayPal account, or by check. And the information is, I believe, on our website, how to make out the check. We do sometimes have problems with people just recently, actually, someone sent a check to World Service for the region, and that kind of gets confusing. We try and explain that, but I don't know why that sometimes happens, but that is on the website. The treasurer is a member of the finance committee, and in there we discuss and review the information and prepare the budget for the following year. The treasurer will give a financial report of the income and expenses at the assembly and at the RSC. And also it can be kept in different ways. I do mine by QuickBooks because that's my background. So that's what I like to do. And some people I know keep it on an Excel sheet and just write it out. And I've even seen some regions just keep a copy of the bank statement. So it's kind of whatever works for you would be okay to just keep track. And the only time we have to be careful is when we have the Narathon. We like to keep that money separate. So we like people to write on their check or on their PayPal donation if the money is for Narathon or for a seventh tradition donation. And I think that's basically it for the treasurer. And then the finance chair, I kind of feel like I'm an interim finance chair here. The treasurer also signs on the bank account, which also the finance chair does. And our committees, our finance committee, all our committees require 3 members to be a committee. And the chair basically, as I think was mentioned before, facilitates the meeting. And the treasurer keeps track of the money, as I said. As the chair and having a finance background, I keep track of it too, because I'm controlling like the rest of us in here, and I like to make sure that I have it right. So let's see, I'm trying to combine these two here. So because of there's frequent changes in the committee position in all the positions, and the signers on the bank account. It's a lot of paperwork and legal process we have to go through to change all that. So that kind of keeps us from sticking very rigidly to our guidelines, because 2 years just go so fast, when you're doing these positions. So, but the chair duties would be to just plan the meeting. And usually we have those quarterly before the RSC if we have time, and of course send a report of the meetings to the assembly and the RSC. We try to compare the information we have to the budget, and we discuss any ideas or questions from committee members or from the RSC and assembly, anything that they've asked us to do. And part of that is presenting the financial report, which is either done by the chair or the treasurer to each assembly and each RSC. Towards the end of the year, we talk about the income and expenses, and we prepare the budget for the next upcoming year. And as I said, my personal procedure is I keep things on QuickBooks, and the chair has access to the PayPal and to the bank account online, so we can kind of double check with each other. And as I've already said, the donations are sent by PayPal. Expenses are paid by check or by transfer. And I've already mentioned about the Narathon as on the treasurer, that we always keep that separate just because we have it separate on our budget. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Trudy. And as the chair and being one of the signers, I headed up switching everyone that was on the bank account, and it is quite a task.
Yes.
Trying to do it here at my local bank, and then having to have documents where the treasurer is, which is an hour away from here, 2 hours from here, or sign paperwork and then overriding it to the other bank. I mean, it just was not an easy process. So yeah, it is one that we have to watch carefully as we try to do this role. So I do appreciate you speaking on those 2 roles, Trudy. Actually, next on the agenda for the final positions in if there's a delegate section, would be passing it back to you again to speak on the alternate delegate role.
Hi, I'm Trudy again. I'm the alternate delegate. I was actually going to start by thanking all of the members attending and encouraging you, if you cannot be of service beyond a group level, that as I told my group, it would mean a lot to the region that you at least attend, just so we know that we're being supported in what we do in the region. So the delegate and alternate requires having been either an ASR or 3 years as a GSR. And not going to lie, being a delegate takes a commitment and a desire to study and learn and experience the principles of the program. Some of the duties are that I've written here are on page 6-7 and 8 of the GLS, and a few of them work for the good of Nar-Anon, provide 2-way communication with the members of the region, which means attending other groups periodically, passing along information about the World Service operation, like we recently had, or are still kind of in a financial crisis, I guess you would call it. And I think it's starting to move along a little better, but after COVID, and attending the RSC and the assembly meetings every quarter, be a source of information regarding the traditions and concepts. I like to send challenges out to the region, as most of you know. Each delegate can decide how they want to serve by using the guidelines. I also sometimes pass along regional or world information, literature updates, because I belong to some of the World Service committees. But that, they recommend that you belong to a committee. However many you want to belong to, I guess, would be up to you and your availability. and to be a liaison between the region and the groups about the World Service Conference. Attending a World Service Conference is an amazing experience to hear the principles at work in our program, even if you just log in as an observer. I think it leaves a lasting impression on you to see how NarAnon works. And be an active member of a World Service Committee. And as I mentioned before, the Guide to Local Services and the Guide to World Services are important books, I feel, for all members. I believe each member should have a copy. Just being a member of a group is a service, so we all need to know our guidelines. What do we use for guidance in our business meetings and when we have a group conscience? Where do we go to solve group problems? I heard someone say recently at an assembly they had discovered this book called The Guide to Local Services and all the amazing information that was in it. These guides should not be a secret. They have been around since 2008. Why doesn't every member have a copy and read it? Service has been a very important part of my recovery. And the more I serve, the more I'm in service, the more I see that I can learn and the more I can grow. And I've come to know NarAnon members from not only the U.S., but all around the world from just being in service and learning how to, I don't want to use the word deal with people, but how to get along with different personalities and how to be open to, something somebody's saying that sometimes, you can be at opposite ends when you're trying to figure out a problem and you can come together with the best solution out of those two different opinions or ideas. So, and we talked a lot about World Service Committees. So, where do service committee members come from? They come from our groups, our areas, and our regions. And where do board members come from? The same. Once you go into service and learn about these different positions, sometimes you want to serve in a different capacity. So from those who serve and want to continue to help families and friends of addicts to carry the message. And I always say, what recovery are you missing by not experiencing service and the freedom that comes from our traditions and concepts in our everyday life? Like the concepts say, freedom for the individual, freedom for the group, freedom for the service structure. So I heard someone say one time, sometimes we serve because we have to. Maybe our sponsor recommends it. I think all sponsors should recommend service to their sponsees. Soon we learn we serve because we want to, and then we serve because we love to. And again, I just want to thank everybody for coming and being a part of this. And my contact is SoCalAlternateDelegate@gmail.com, or you can contact me at the region. And if you have any questions or any ideas that you'd like to pass along, thank you for letting me share.
Thank you so much, Trudy, again, for all of your decades of service at assorted levels. I know, having been the new chair coming in at the beginning of my service, I definitely lean on you as a backbone for the region, and I appreciate all of your service and guidance.
Yeah.
All right, so next we're going to move on to the subcommittees. Ken did go over the basic structures of the subcommittee and the assorted roles. So now we're going to talk a little bit about what those subcommittees do. The first subcommittee is Narateen, so we'll pass it over to Ken.
Hi again, I'm still Ken, and Narateen has been a passion of mine. Those of you who maybe heard me share once in a while, addiction entered my life when I was a kid. I was 10 years old when I first experienced it in my family, and grew up throughout my adolescence, and it was a really rough time, and it was something that had an effect on me for my entire life because I learned really bad habits about trying to help people who I couldn't help, about trying to take on responsibilities that weren't mine, about not paying attention to things that were important to me or important to my growth because I was so busy absorbing and taking on other people's problems. And I think that it became, I personally became a bit of a magnet for addicts and for other people who, you know, if they needed enabling, here I am. If they needed a codependent, I volunteer. And I spent a lot of time doing that. And teens often don't have anybody to share with and to learn better skills from, because often the counselors or the people that are available to them don't actually have training in addiction or addiction recovery. There are people whose responsibility it is to help them if they're in a severe crisis like abuse or neglect. But in terms of dealing with the emotional turmoil and the kind of support that you need when you have addiction in your life, teens often don't have that. Now, as an adult, I'm a foster parent, and I've learned that probably 90% of all the children in the state of California who end up in foster care because of the addiction of someone else, because a parent or guardian or someone close to them is either neglecting them or abusing them or endangering them. And so they end up in foster care. We had a young lady who I almost adopted, and we had to put the brakes on that adoption because she developed addiction. And she was developing addiction because there was so much addiction in her family. She thought that was something she needed to do to fit in so she could get back to her biological family, so she could reestablish relationships with her biological family. And many kids do follow that sort of road of, if you can't beat them, join them. Because often the drug culture and addiction culture becomes normalized because that's what they know. And at my age, if I were to sit there with a teenager and start lecturing them, I'm just some grown-up lecturing them. If they're with peers, if they're with people close to their age who are showing you can make better choices, you can prioritize school, you can choose friends better, you can have respect for your body, you can be healthy, you can make better choices, they're more likely to listen to other kids. There is also service literature available for teens. Mostly, however, it should be understood that Narateen meetings look like the same meetings that you attend weekly. We share our experience, strength, and hope. We focus on 12 steps, traditions, and concepts. A Narateen group ideally has a GSR who can be a part of the assembly. They can have sponsors with fellow teenagers. The adults that are present in meetings, and this is where we will need volunteers, are called adult facilitators. And adult facilitators are there to simply, we're not there to offer counseling. We're not there to mentor them or to teach them or to help or to be their sponsors. We're simply there to make sure the meetings are being run in a respectful manner and that the 12 steps, traditions, and concepts are being followed, and to answer any questions about how the program works. So if you've attended NarAnon meetings regularly, you know how a group meeting works and how the weekly shares. Maybe sometimes at a meeting, there's a lull and they're having trouble getting the conversation going. So you can offer to do a reading from conference approved literature, or ask somebody to do a reading or something like that to get the subject going. If there's any benefit that came out of COVID, it was that we discovered better attendance on a number of the Narateen meetings through virtual means. Many of our kids don't have transportation, or they're afraid to ask to be allowed to go to an Nar-Anon meeting. So to be able to, they all have gadgets and they're all comfortable with their gadgets. So this brought greater access to them. It also gave opportunities for kids to attend meetings in other regions if there isn't one in their region. If you're in California and there's not one here yet, you can attend one in the Pacific Northwest. They're even opening up a Spanish-speaking meeting. I keep hearing about it, but I haven't gotten the information yet in Colombia. There are meetings all over the world, and they can attend them. We don't share adult facilitators across state lines or across national lines, because in order to become an adult facilitator, you do have to pass a local background check, and you do have to be cleared by whatever the local laws state. That's been the single biggest holdup in California. Is our Department of Justice is really complex and hasn't been as helpful as they could be. So they don't return phone calls and they don't return emails and they give you links that don't work and things like that. So I've been really struggling to get past that hump of the background check. Hopefully it'll happen sooner than later. Once that happens, we can move forward and open up Narateen meetings. We will need adult facilitators. The more the merrier, because that means you don't have to attend every meeting. We should have 2 adult facilitators at every meeting, so we can have some sort of rotation going with each meeting. Then nobody is obligated to go every week. And Yukiko is serving as our NTP processing person. That is the person who helps the new volunteer who wants to be an adult facilitator get through the background check, and will help with training. I will be very involved with training, because it will require a presentation, and it will require learning a bit about things like mandated reporting in California and how we can avoid being too involved in that kind of situation, but how we have to legally comply. We will need people for certain on our committee to help with outreach. And that has been something I've really struggled to find people who are willing to be a part of. I'm trying to develop a database, a list of organizations that should know that Narateen exists, so I can reach out to their leadership, their counselors, whatever it is, to let them know. Like within the foster care community, the Department of Child and Family Services, addiction specialists, people like that who can pass the information along to families to let them know that we exist, and that just requires a little bit of work of getting all that information into a list, and then maybe help me write those emails and those letters. The World Service Narateen Committee that I'm functioning on, we have a subcommittee that is starting to work on outreach. They're developing some social media posts for Instagram and things like that. But it's more on a global level. We will need local participation for that. And then helping to spread the word to our region that Narateen exists. I'm perfectly available to do guest speaking. I would love to have other people on our committee who could speak at their meetings about Narateen. So those are that's the kind of volunteering we need. I'm the chair. We have a vice chair. We have an NTP person. We don't have a secretary. We do have a budget, so we do need a treasurer. And the fewer people involved, the harder it is to move the committee forward. So that's Narateen. And I will tell you at the end, because Narateen helps kids make better choices, helps kids help each other make better choices, I'm absolutely convinced it saves lives.
Thank you so much, Ken. Next, we have our website committee, Debbie.
Hi, I'm Debbie, and I started serving as a GSR in my home group. GSR is Group Service Representative, attending meetings held by the Southern California NarAnon, and I'm going to be talking about the website committee. The Southern California NarAnon website committee operates with 3+ members, consisting of the chair, which is the role that I'm filling, and a few support members. The group is committed to keeping the Southern California NarAnon website current, with current information about meetings, related NarAnon events, and resources that primarily would be of interest to the Southern California area. Before COVID, the Southern California website's focus was serving as a resource for those living in the area. But with many groups now in our area doing virtual meetings and workshops, the website now welcomes more visitors joining in from outside Southern California. So we're expanded our resources, or expanded our outreach. For those interested in joining the committee, it is helpful for committee members to have some experience editing websites, but it is not a requirement. The SoCalNarateen website is a Wix website, and that's similar to other website building platforms. But I mean, if you can do word processing, editing, you can edit a website. The website committee members would be trained and supported by existing members, and training video has been created and will be shared for those who are interested. And as with all the positions in that we're talking about, we all work together to support each other, to get questions answered and tasks accomplished. So you never feel that you're alone. There's always somebody who's willing to tell you what you need to know. Our SoCalNarateen website serves as an important 24/7 outreach tool, providing information to help families, friends, and employers of addicts on the path to their recovery. So this is sometimes one of the first places they go. They start and put the Google out there and Google it, Google help, and our website appears. Therefore, it's critical to the maintenance of our website that there be skilled backup person or persons to ensure that pertinent information is available there, and especially, the regional documents are posted and that the website is accurate and working properly. The way this usually happens is that update requests to the website are received via the SoCal web email address. And examples of what updates that we usually get are updates to the calendar page, which is just a Google calendar, and the Find a Meeting page, adding regional assembly meeting information, adding downloadable documents such as the SoCal meeting agendas and minutes, and adding downloadable flyers such as outreach events. Additionally, members of the committee may be asked to regularly check, reply to, and forward incoming emails sent to the website's email in a timely manner, depending, what's in the content. So if you're interested in learning more, please feel free to directly email the website committee at SoCalWeb@nar-anon.org. That's SoCalWeb@nar-anon.org. So thank you for letting me be of service, and I look forward to welcoming more members to the website committee.
Thank you so much, Debbie, for your service. Next is going to be our outreach committee, and Dottie was not able to make it today, so I will be speaking on that. We actually don't currently have an active outreach committee, as we do not have a chair. We do still have members that were our group members that were part of the Nar-Anon committee, outreach committee, but it is not an active committee itself. So it's really important that hopefully we have someone who can step up to lead the charge in this aspect, because outreach is crucial for our region. Two of the things that really come out of outreach are, one, spreading the word and the message of Nar-Anon and hope to others by increasing awareness of our Nar-Anon family groups, and getting out there and showing people how being of service can help you. So it really kind of goes back to what we're doing today, that we can talk to folks while we're out there, and we can hopefully entice them and encourage them to be of service. And without having an active outreach committee, we're really doing a disservice to our local families and groups. Some of the things that the chair would do would be to make sure that the members at large are aware of the available resources. On the website, there are things such as cover letters that are available for professionals to friends and families, for Narateen, making sure that they know that those things are available to them when they're doing their outreach, helping to provide suggestions on ways that they can do outreach and places that they might be able to go, such as local recovery homes, foster family folks, schools, middle schools, high schools, counselors, local libraries, posting about a meeting at a Starbucks or a laundromat. I mean, there's so many things that you can do to get the message out there to all the different segments of people that are in need of support from folks like us that have been in their situation. So providing those resources and then acting as an organizer for the outreach that we do. It doesn't mean as a chair that you have to physically attend all of the outreach things that we do, but you can help coordinate what is happening. So I personally reside out in the Inland Empire area. So I tend to head up the outreach that we do out here at an NA convention in the Palm Desert area. And I will help facilitate how many, volunteers we recruit, making sure that we have the time slots filled, that we have the materials that we need. But I don't do that for Burbank or San Diego because that's not feasible for me because I don't live in those areas. The chair would help to find folks in the local groups that are willing to step up and be of service. So like Trudy is helping to facilitate attending our the Orange County recovery thing that's coming up that I believe next weekend. And we're going to have a table there and have outreach. So it would be someone who could help facilitate and coordinate, but not necessarily having to attend. And I think that's one of the biggest barriers to having an outreach chair is they think that they're going to have to commit to attending all of these things. And you don't. And you're really just the organizer and facilitator to get things going and to help guide the members at large that are out there, boots on the ground in their community. So that's pretty much for outreach. Next, let's move on to Narathon, which is we're going to pass it back to Joel.
Hi, yes, I'm still Joel also. So for the Narathon subcommittee, so the Narathon itself is an annual fundraiser that we host as the Southern California region. We pack it full with the schedule of guest speakers with the purpose of getting people to share their stories, getting people to attend and make donations. Like, besides the Narathon, the only other funds we receive are from Seventh Tradition. So due to the COVID-19 pandemic, our previous couple, 2 or 3 Narathons have been virtual, but we're anticipating that the next one will be in person. I'll just say I heard some clamoring for this year's to be in person, but that decision was made way in advance. So the purpose of the Narathon subcommittee is for those volunteers, the NarAnon members and leaders who wish to successfully execute this event. So that means organizing speakers. That means creating or organizing the program. That means putting things together for production. We've also as Ken mentioned earlier, there's recordings that are also made available. Right now, the committee is looking for someone to step up to be chair. It is currently open, and then the chair would be the person who works with all other members for putting together meetings. So the chair would obviously put together meeting agendas, but the entire subcommittee would have meetings, maintain their documents, their agendas, their minutes, etc. Decide whether or not they want to put anything on the online document archive. And although there is no current committee chair, I'll go ahead and mention that there is an email. Actually, the contact, sorry, I got it confused. The contact right now is to the SoCal region at NarAnon.org. But that would be for anyone who's interested in stepping up.
Thank you so much, Joel.
I just want to jump in very quickly for the purposes of the recording to read the various email addresses. As Joel just said, the regional information or Narathon is SoCalRegion@NarAnon.org. If you have questions or you want to volunteer for the website committee is SoCalWeb@nar-anon.org. And Narateen is SoCalNarateen@NarAnon.org. I'm also going to underscore something that Debbie said that I thought very valuable. If you volunteer for certain committees, you get new skills. So that's things you can get out of it, things that look great on a resume, things that just help you in general in life.
Excellent. Thank you, Ken. Next, we have literature. Trudy, do you want to speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, thank you. Hi, I'm Trudy. The Regional Literature Committee, which we don't have right now, but just to explain a little bit about it, usually you want to have at least 3 members on it. And this is members who get together periodically, you make up your own schedule to write and edit literature. And the World Service Literature Committee, it's a great resource for them, because what we're working on the World Service Committee, we can hand off to local literature committees to edit and then send it back to us after we go through it and make our edits, just to have another perspective on some of the literature. Some people have you can pick a topic to write on, or you can also get information from the World Service Committee. Some people have written on relationships or prepared a service pamphlet. And if you have a topic that you want to put on the priority list, the priority list is what our World Service Literature Committee, we have to work on first. That's what was decided at the conference, how those are in order. Some of you probably voted on that. We could do like editing on a tradition or a concept. We're still working on the NarAnon 36. We finished introduction all the way to tradition 3. We're turning in tradition 4 and 5, I believe, for next conference, the interim conference. There's pamphlets, there's the New Daily Reader, there's all kinds of literature that you could use. We've never had really an organized literature committee in here, so if anybody is interested in that, just let us know. We could be of great help to the World Service Literature Committee. And if you are interested, just contact the region if we want to get something like that started. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you again, Trudy, for being of service. So that concludes our subcommittees. We'll go ahead and move on to other opportunities. And we will ask Yukiko to speak on the GSR position. You're still on mute.
Okay.
There you go.
I was sorry. I am having a problem with the audio. Can you mute this one? Let me turn it. Okay. I don't think this microphone works good, so you might not be able to hear clearly, but I'll try my best. Okay. Most of you have been GSR, so you probably, I don't have to really explain in detail. I have been GSR and GSR alternate more than 6 years, and I have been privileged to be linked between our group and this Southern California region, and it's just a communication that goes back and forth. It's a two-way. I attend the regional assembly to report to a group what we discussed at the assembly. And then if our group has some questions or need to address something at the meeting, I bring it to the room. So I'm like a link, and it's a 3-year commitment. And we finally found GSR in our meeting, but yet she was not. So I would like to pass on to the new GSR in our group, but I'm having a hard time. I announced it to volunteer, and nobody has stepped up to be a GSR. So I stay out alternate like forever, but at the same time, I'm learning so much so that it is good. I also collect like motion votes that to prepare to send it to the region, and also literature priority list. I ask the member, tell me what they think. So I collect the group votes to the I answer the question delegates send us and lead a meeting according to whatever interesting topic they brought. I have led tradition topics because most of our members they don't bring a tradition topic. It's a group topic. Also, our group likes in-person Narathon. But we realized that it's fundraising. So we donated, we collected money and then donating to the Narathon. But most of our members in our group like in person. Probably why our meeting is in person. And we even have one Narateen age member come to a meeting, and I suggested, why don't you attend Narateen meeting online? And she said, I like in-person meeting. So she has been attending. Our group have done some outreach work and visited different facilities and talk about NarAnon. And so I hope that we get NarAnon, outreach chair so that we can resume that. We also have done group inventory, guide, and that was, and then I think our meeting is pretty healthy because it says that we follow those guidelines and take our group inventory time to time to stay healthy. And I also am in TTP, and I did my background check about a year ago, but I'm patiently waiting for it to go through. Without being a GSR, I wouldn't have known all those subcommittees and what their work does. And I'm able to pass these positions, available positions to our group so that they are at least aware that we need more volunteers. And that's about all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yukiko, for coming and speaking about the GSR position today. I think the biggest takeaway for that is that each group needs to have a GSR, a group service representative, so that they can attend the assemblies, so your group has a voice. Without the GSR, your group loses your voice in the regional conscience. And we want to make sure that we adhere to the service structure where the power lies within the groups. So thank you for the GSRs that are on today for your service in your role. Last, we're going to move over to Susan for our take back to the meeting minutes.
Hi, I'm Susan. I'm from the Mission Viejo Nar-Anon group. I've been asked to speak about a few things today. The first one I'm actually a volunteer for, which is take back to the meeting. And I attend the quarterly assembly meetings and take notes and pick out the notes that would be most important that go back to each of the meetings. I send my notes to the chair and they review them, and maybe I missed something, or maybe they're too long. They get reviewed and then they get sent out to the GSRs. So the GSRs will take them back to the meeting and run those thoughts that were discussed. It's the way that the assembly gets all of their thoughts conveyed back to the groups, and it's the way that the groups are aware and can also give their thoughts back to the GSRs, so that the people in the assembly know it's a back and forth communication. Keeps things open. The next opportunity is Zoom host, which Roxanne is today, and she elected Ken to be her co-host. What that entails is, if you're a Zoom host, you need to be signed on first, which allows everyone else to sign on. If you need to step away, you can give it over to a co-host, or you give it to a co-host like she did today, so that Ken could share some slides and everybody would be able to see them. That position is available. It also involves, if we have a waiting room, you let people in from the waiting room. That's that. And the next volunteer opportunity is what we're calling, I think, data entry communication. This person, or possibly two people working together, would need to have the knowledge on using the Google Drive and Excel spreadsheets. Examples of this position are doing updates on the directory, Google Contacts, email lists, and GSR spreadsheet. Any types of changes that are discussed at the assembly need to be updated to the Google Drive, and includes things like new meetings, canceled meetings, adding or removing GSRs. Also included would be access to the MailChimp accounts, so that we can send out emails to the groups. And as mentioned with other positions, there would be training with this, a mentor or a sponsor to help you, someone who's done this before, to help you learn how to ease into doing it. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Susan, for bringing those additional opportunities to light for our region. And with that, that concludes all of our positions. And I would like to note it is 9:59 and we are right on schedule. Again, being respectful of other folks' time.
This has been the Southern California Nar-Anon Family Group's 2023 special event about how to volunteer and be of service in Naranon. This workshop presentation is entitled, Helping Naranon Help You. The host was Southern California Regional Chair Roxanne. As a reminder, our seventh tradition states every group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. We gratefully accept contributions in any amount. Please visit our website at NaranonSoCal.org and click on the Donate button on the homepage. If you're donating on behalf of a group, please also include your group ID number and meeting name. Please remember to tap the like and subscribe buttons for this video on our YouTube channel. For hyperlinks to resources mentioned during this program, please review the comments below the video on YouTube. And remember, keep coming back. It works if you work it, and it won't if you don't. So do it, because you're worth it.